Morning, welcome to this special session. It is Flag Day, and Commissioner Algar was the first person in the room this morning. So would you please lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Everyone, please turn your microphones on. It will show by a red button. Commissioner Kramer is absent prior notice. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Yes, ma'am, here.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Yes, sir. Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Commissioner Algar.
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
Thank you. Thank you. We now have a 3-minute public comment. If anybody here would like to make public comment. Yes, Ms. Wellman.
I promise it will be very short. Jill Wellman, Centerville Township. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the time and dedication you've shown to this process. I think I've been in most of your meetings and heard most of the things, and I know how hard it is and how long you've been working on this. I know you take it very seriously, especially given the past history, and you want to find the perfect person. He or she might not exist. And if they don't walk through your door, what are you going to do? So not choosing has its own ramifications, which you all realize. So I want to remind you of a quote I remind myself of frequently. Perfection is the enemy of the good.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you very much for coming this morning. Any commissioner comment?
Good morning.
Okay, we do have the agenda, and Mr. Janik, would you join us at the table there? Per the direction of the board, Mr. Janik and I did reach out to do reference checks, and I made calls and had good conversation, and Chet made calls, and between the two of them, we got a lot of very positive feedback. Yesterday, I met with Chet, and I also met with Richard Lewis. And I talked to Mr. Lewis about if we didn't decide to go forward right now, would he be willing to stay on and allow the next board of commissioners to make the appointment of an administrator? And that process would start later in our term, but we would delay it. I asked him if he'd be willing to let us put that on the table, because between the two of them, we've got exactly what we need. But as I talked to references and as I talked to Chad, it seemed like the skill set for the one position was not there. That was just what I got from the references. But I'll let Chet speak to that. We don't need to make a decision on that today, but I just wanted us to know that that is an option if we want to do that. Mr. Lewis would be willing to stay on with us and continue the process of moving us forward.
Yeah, well, let me just give an update since Monday afternoon. I called the 4 people that you interviewed and let them know where we are with the process, because I've been in their seats and it's always nerve-wracking not knowing what it is. So I called them as soon as the meeting got done. And the 2 that you passed on at this point were very gracious, said thank you for the opportunity for an interview and so forth. And so I did that. And then I talked to both Mr. Belcher and Mr. Belsky, told them we were doing reference checks, and also asked them to put in writing that we had permission to contact any or current former employers and employees, and we'll grant it permission. So and then Mr. Wessel and I kind of split up the list who was going to call who. So let me start with Mr. Belcher. So I talked to 2 county prosecutors, to the supervisor of the Michigan State Police, and 2 prior commanders. And they all said very good things about Kip, very ethical, very honest, hardworking, straight shooter, no political means in all their years working with him. Very high comments. You probably picked that up on him. He is who he is, and very straightforward. They all enjoy working with him. They're very well respected within the organization, state police, and the prosecutors that I talked to and his former supervisors were very positive. Mr. Wessel talked to the finance treasurer for Emmett County, right? About his financial background, and you may want to address that. The people I talked to mostly focused on his leadership skills and his people skills. Very ethical, straightforward, never any controversy with him. His budget experience is not up to the par where Mr. Belsky is, and his comments were very favorable too. So I talked to the city manager for Highland Park because Mr. Belsky was on the city commission, also was the mayor there. I talked to and he has a very impressive list of references. I talked to the former Speaker of the Michigan House and the former Michigan State Treasurer about him. I talked to the Director of Public Finance for the Michigan Office of Northland Securities. And the one comment is they all heard nothing but great things about Leelanau County. Mr. Belsky is always telling them about Leelanau County. And a couple of them have spent time up here. And we spent some time talking about the great burritos at Sugarfoot's with a couple of them. Because Michael told them, you have to go to Sugarfoot's and have their burritos. So 3 of them actually knew where Sugarfoot's was and they brought it up. I didn't bring up burritos, but I did question about some of the comments. I think Mr. O'Rourke brought up the fact how he would fit in. He is definitely a type A personality and very driven big projects. And they thought because of his passion for Leelanau County, that he was very committed. He's now looking for positions. As far as I know, there's so many jobs that he's applied for, and that's what his references said, that he definitely has a passion for Leelanau County. And when he was mayor and on the city commission of Highland Park, he answered every phone call, was very open with his views, was a hands-on mayor. He got involved with every little detail. If someone called him about a problem, was it garbage or anything else, he made sure he followed up with it. So feedback is all very positive about both Mr. Belcher and Mr. Belsky. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
I talked to Commander Bush, who is Mr. Belcher's immediate supervisor now, who's very positive about his relationships with staff, his problem-solving ability, his demeanor, and his ability to work with everybody. He also talked about Mr. Belcher's ability to manage grants and keep track of the grant accounting, and did do a nice job of doing the accounting work related to keeping track of grants, but admitted that he had not done some of the chief financial officer kinds of responsibilities, and not the governmental accounting that we said we were looking for. Then I talked to Pam Gibson, who is a finance director for Emmett County. She too was very, very supportive of Mr. Belcher, and echoed most of the things that Commander Bush did. His ability to work with people, calm demeanor. But when I pressed on the finances, it certainly is. He doesn't come in as a chief financial officer. He comes in as a really good leader. For Mr. Belsky, I had several conversations with both Mr. Belsky and I was to call Ivan Samstein, who is a former chief financial officer for the county in Illinois. He's now works for a hospital system as a chief financial officer in Illinois. And he was at a board meeting all day yesterday. So the message I got back was he'd like to give positive information to us, but he just was not available. And I get the sense, I mean, and Mr. Belsky reached out and said to me, tried to get Ivan, and tried to call you today, but then we talked about the references that Chet had done. And we got two fine candidates, two very positive candidates.
The question is, are they the right fit for Leelanau County? And, as you know, someone could fit very well in one county or one unit of government, but struggle in a different one because everyone has different personalities, different traits and so forth. Also, at the end of the meeting Monday, Chairman Wessel asked Heather and I to reach out to the staff, see if any additional feedback. I gave you the comments Monday afternoon that were put in the boxes. Heather sent an email to all staff and we received 2 responses. They're not signed, but I made copies. They're on your desk. All of you have these. So these were only 2 responses that we got from the staff, in addition to the ones that you received Monday afternoon from the about the candidates.
Commissioner Richard?
Yeah, previously, my comments were not about the qualification of the quality of individuals. My concern was about the fit in the county and the fit the position. I think, and this is just me speaking for me, but I think when we crafted this administrator / CFO position, we were looking for someone to help us get through the creation of this finance department, which we have just stumbled on. We have not done well with it. I think that's what we were seeking. And, when it was mentioned, hey, that person you're going to try and find is a unicorn. There's going to be a very rare individual who can do that. It's my understanding that Mr. Lewis is doing a good job with all of the staff and all of the people involved in this process, and he's got the respect of them. And, perhaps he is our unicorn, and I would be comfortable continuing on with him. And then maybe, because if this department gets created and he seems to have the skill set and the relationships with the people that do it, then we aren't looking for a unicorn after that. We're just looking for a good administrator. And if I look at the 2 candidates, I personally, nothing against them and their qualifications individually. I just don't think that Mr. Belsky is a fit for this county. And I don't think we have the finance, the information with Kip that we need. But it seems to me right now we have someone seated, if they're willing to stick around, who can get us through this issue, and then maybe we won't have to find a unicorn the next time. Maybe we can swing back to administrator, because he seems to be getting the notes here with the staff to get us through the mess. I think that's just my summation of where I feel I'm at. I have trouble voting for either candidate right now. I couldn't, not because of their individual qualifications. I just don't think the one has a finance background. He can probably make a fantastic administrator, and the other one, I just don't think is a fit for the county.
Commissioner Hooker?
I respect Commissioner Rexfield's feelings on fit. I do believe he would be a fit for a whole lot of people in the county and for what's going on in the world right now. We desperately need fresh ideas on housing. We need innovation. We need some things that we don't have the budget for. And we don't want our taxpayers to pay for. And what I heard was a man who knows how to access the world out there to bring in resources so that we don't have to ask our taxpayers to pay for them. I also hear, and so maybe he feels like, ooh, he's got too many ideas. On the other hand, I bet we could benefit from some of those ideas and some of that awareness of what's available to us to bring home, to help us keep moving. I also hear that there's discomfort and there's not support for all of us going forward right now. I liked Mr. Belcher. just doesn't have the qualifications we were asking for, so that would be unfair to our last administrator, frankly, to go out and find somebody with the same kind of qualifications. Would invalidate what we've done. But I hear if we do not have consensus, then we don't have consensus. But Mr. Belsky sure seems dedicated and can bring us tools we need and have not known to avail ourselves of those things.
Commissioner Rush?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you so far. And, but after talking with staff yesterday and some constituents, I just kind of feel like we're in a good place at this moment, and I'm not really sure we're going anywhere different. But I guess I feel like this conversation is kind of strange. We're talking about a person that's in this building right now, and we really haven't heard from him about his commitment or amount of extra months or a year or whatever he would offer to us. So to make a decision based on assuming he's going to be there for us, I think is a little uncomfortable for me. So I guess if we concentrate on the two candidates right now, I agree that Mr. Belcher is not, doesn't have the finance. That's pretty much, I think, something we'll all be able to agree on, because that's pretty black and white. But Mr. Belsky has a lot of strengths and a lot of interest in this position, and I don't think that should be taken lightly. Someone who has done so much in his lifetime and is interested in bringing it to Leelanau County is maybe a gift that we're not looking at seriously. Whether it's the right time for us, that's what I'm struggling with. So I guess until we can kind of figure out the bigger picture, but it was definitely a consensus with the staff and constituents that I spoke with, reiterated that Mr. Lewis is providing some stability, some real strength amongst the employees and the feeling in general. And you kind of hate to lose that unless it's for someone that we know is going to be super good. And if we can agree all on that, then maybe Mr. Belsky's time isn't right for us here.
Does anyone have an idea of what Mr. Lewis's plans are? Does anyone spoken with him? Or?
I can tell you that my question for him was, if we don't decide on moving forward at this time, would you be willing to negotiate a contract with us for to continue in your current role until we're ready to make a decision? And we talked about that might be till the end of the year, or even start the process in November and conclude it after the new board was seated, if that's what this group decided to do. I think he was, and Chet was there, I think he was
open to that option. I'm guessing the terms would be pretty much same as he has now with the county.
Let's hear from Commissioner Lautner first.
Yes, thank you. This has been a very, I don't want to say strange, but this has been a different process, because I think that the candidates we looked at were all just so different in their skill sets and in their personalities. The only thing concerning about Mr. Belsky, honestly, was his ambition. and we talked about fit, we talked about the type A personality. So I guess my concern was, could Mr. Belsky slow down enough to be that fit for Leelanau County? And that was the only thing I was really unsure about. His skill level is there, I felt. And he certainly does love Leelanau County, and we all feel the passion he feels for Leelanau County. So this is where it just gets a little bit strange. I don't know if I'm totally ready to dismiss him outright. So my thought process was, and I know we probably, he's committed a lot of resources into coming and meeting with us, but would he consider coming a third time? And perhaps we would have to pay.
Well, I can address that. Both
Okay.
candidates said that you want to come back for a follow-up interview, because I asked both of them that. So the answer is yes.
I would like, you know, the opportunity for him to come maybe and just spend a day with staff and with us, and more time than just sitting across the table 1 hour and interviewing it. I think so much is lost, and then perhaps pursue that option of working together with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Belsky, perhaps for a while. Perhaps Mr. Lewis could stay on in a much reduced capacity, but still have all his expertise and guidance, because yeah, I absolutely wish Mr. Lewis weren't ready to retire yet and wanted a full-time job as administrator. But this is where we're at, and so to be fair across the board, that's kind of where I was. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but I don't know that we know yet. And I don't want to rush this, but I would hate to lose a good candidate also.
Thank you. I invited Commissioner Kramer to submit public comment. I did not receive anything. Michelle, you didn't, did you?
I didn't notice any issue, but I did not check this morning. If you want to take a recess, I can certainly go check my email.
Let's see if we'll hear from Commissioner O'Rourke, and then I think we ought to check and see if we got something from Commissioner Kramer.
I had a conversation.
Commissioner O'Rourke?
Just seems kind of ironic that this was started before this board took their office. Now we possibly could kick it down the road till the next board starts. I see the whole job description as admin, CFO, as apples and oranges. I don't know. It's like Melinda mentioned a unicorn, Mr. Rexroth mentioned unicorn. I don't think the job could be done 100% by one person. Kip's a great leader, he's a friend of mine, and yes, he does not have the experience. My honest opinion, and I'll get phone calls tonight on this, I think we ought to hire Kip and put the finance back at Michelle's office. Now everybody get your moment of silence, okay? You guys put us into this, okay, you put us into this, was it a 4-3 vote, what was it? Do you remember?
4-3.
For what?
Was it a 4-3? Okay. I'm just, I don't like to leave any job saying I didn't do my job or I didn't do the work. I'm leaving in 6 months, 7 months. Okay, I got onto this to thought I could, make it do better. Nothing wrong with Mr. Bielski. I've had a lot of admin people. He reminds me of somebody in the upper level of TSA. You say something to me, you get 2 emails back, all right? That's not a fit for Leelanau County. I just don't think. Very qualified gentleman, except for the part where he helped Lori Lightfoot's refinance organization in Chicago, and I guess that's all I'm really confused by it, to tell you the truth. But I think if this doesn't work well, we ought to put it back in the clerk's office. There, how's that for follow?
Yeah, Commissioner O'Hare, Commissioner Ross, and then
Yeah, I might have something to say.
and then we'll,
Besides the phone calls that I'll give you tonight.
Commissioner O'Hare.
We love you, Ricky,
Thank you.
in spite of, no. I don't believe in retrenching the straight in here on that. Forward. Just blew me away.
Speechless.
The point I wanted to make was, I do believe that we should complete this process by the end of our term. I don't think we should lay this on a brand new board. When people start here, it's a lot to expect them to go into a hiring process when they're trying to figure out how to make a motion. Or remember how to make a motion. And that's, I'm not putting down anyone who might be elected, but there's a lot to learn in this job. So if we do hold off, I think we have an opportunity with Mr. Belsky. But if we do hold off, I really believe we should. I appreciate that Richard Lewis will stay for a while. I wish he was 10 years younger, and he's not, because he's really dedicated to his 22 grandchildren, which is wonderful. If he will help us, and we commit to finishing this by the end of our term, then I would support that, given the fact that we seem to be unsure at this point, and he's doing excellent work. That's pretty much what I was gonna say, but again, I was a new commissioner 18 months ago, and if my first big decision was to hire an administrator, I think that would have been pretty overwhelming for me, to be honest. So I would not wish that on somebody else on this board. So I agree with Commissioner Elgeier on that, and that is 6 months away. But I guess my question to Chad or to this board is, so we asked Mr. Lewis to stay on, but do we open up the process again and ask for new applications? Since there doesn't seem to be 100% agreement that Belsky is our next best fit for Leelanau County. Is that something that we need to discuss today, or I guess I don't know what our options are. Do we put Mr. Belsky on hold? That doesn't seem quite respectful of that. But are we interested in opening up the process again and looking for other candidates? Is that what we're saying?
My purpose in reaching out to Mr. Lewis is just to make sure we came in here today knowing that we did not have to make a quick decision if we couldn't agree. Commissioner Rushroad?
So, following up on Commissioner O'Rourke's comments, I am 100% opposed to that option, just to make that position clear.
I knew that.
And I think, I mean, to address it, because finishing what we started, the big thing we're trying to finish is the creation of a finance department. That's the unfinished business as well. And if Mr. Lewis can get that done, then I would suggest to this board that we maybe aren't looking for an administrator, CFO, we're looking for an administrator, which changes the equation. I mean, to me, again, I go back to the whole process, thinking that, you know, if I look at the recommendations of the finance committee, it was like, how do we dig out of this loop of not being able to get the finance department right? And that's where the recommendation came for the administrator's last year, was to help get this finance department done and over with, so that this pain would go away. And so I think Mr. Lewis has the respect and the things to get that part done. So we wouldn't be shirking our duties, we'd be getting that part done. And, you know, as far as the process on the next person, it would be different. I mean, you'd be looking at it. I would look at almost every candidate we interviewed differently if I was only looking for an administrator. And if we get the finance department up and running and headed the right direction, I'm not convinced we need the /CFO part of the job description. And, you know, I will agree with you, it's very difficult to find someone that's going to be able to do both jobs. There's certain personality traits that make people that are good with numbers aren't always good with people, and people with people aren't always good with numbers. And I don't want to say that it's a universal thing, but it's just a life experience thing. And so I go back to, I think this unicorn, I think we have him right now, Mr. Lewis, to lead us through to get to the finance department creation. And I right now, outside of that, I can't, again, not not based on, they're two wonderful people and have a different set of skills, but if we're gonna continue, the idea is to continue to look for an administrator slash CFO, I can't support either one of them right now. I do like the idea of like getting this done and going another direction with just a pure administrator.
Commissioner Elgar.
I guess I'd like to make one more comment about that, because I hear you and it makes sense. One of the things, you know, in a county, the clerk's office is very powerful. The clerk has to sign things that go to the state. And the clerk's office is often a target. And the clerk's office here has been a huge target for people. And frankly, part of the reason that I endorsed the idea of administrator CFO was to partially get some of the target off the back of the clerk's office. That if we had an administrator CFO who could be more of a resource and could really kind of protect the clerk's office from so much of the partisan, or not the partisan, but the negative targeting they've got. And I think long-term, that could remain to be valid. Because in a way, we put ourselves right back where we started, and that is if the finance department has a problem or a question or needs guidance, they have to go to the clerk's office instead of to the CFO. We'll never get, the clerk still has to sign things. They're still involved, you know? But if we could get some of the negative crap away from the clerk's office, more separation, maybe their lives would be even better.
I heard three people say that they were impressed with at least two of the candidates we've interviewed, the two finalists. And that my own personal thought is we wouldn't want to start totally over, leave them in the mix. I think they're two good people and the references prove that. But I think that we're going to have a hard time finding a candidate that 7 of us believe is the right fit for this position right now. And I haven't heard from Jamie, but Michelle checked and you didn't get anything from Jamie.
Unless I missed it, I just scanned her name under her county email. I didn't see anything, but again, remember that would be public comment.
Right.
And then we would have to entertain all public comment that would come in.
And we did invite public comment this morning.
But I mean, any emails, and I didn't search for those.
Commissioner Roy?
Well, I don't like to, but I have to agree with Mr. Rexroth. Let's get the finance established and then get the administrator. It's apples and oranges. It's not gonna fly. You know, you got two options, you know, that or put it back to the clerk's office. I know that's good, like I said, I'm gonna get more phone calls now. Mr. Lewis is an outstanding individual. I think he's retired. I think he's probably had enough and he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Okay. Things are running real good right now. Let's see what we can do in 30 days or 60 days.
So to follow up on your point about maybe once our finance department is off and running, functioning well, we still have the finance department reporting directly to the administrator, correct?
Correct.
So I guess I'm not sure I agree with you totally on the fact that we don't want a really strong person with that administrator / CFO to oversee that finance department in its infancy. I would still not feel comfortable with Mr. Belcher, his background in finance, overseeing a brand new department. So,
And a brand new system.
brand new system, the department's not fully developed
I'm sorry.
yet, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
no, that's fine.
But
So I just, I still feel that CFO is really an important part of what we're looking for.
I think we have to remember that we're not just talking about getting the people in. We're talking about transitioning to a whole new system. And that's why, another reason we wanted the CFO is if we're gonna go to BSA or whatever, this is a 2 or 3 year process. And we need somebody to oversee that who knows what they're doing. So it's not just getting the people.
Commissioner Lautner has suggested a third interview. You want to speak more to that? I didn't hear anybody pick up on it.
I didn't either. I've been trying to listen closely for a little bit of support on that option. I really do think a day with Mr. Belsky could tell us a lot. One way or another, and from everything I'm hearing the board saying, if we're moving forward with finance, he would have that ability to move us forward with finance. He also would oversee that process as it got going, and then obviously as that got firmly entrenched, he would be able to concentrate on administration only. And as I said, we're at a much slower pace than he's used to, but I think that is exactly what he's looking for at this stage in his career. But perhaps a third interview would tell us more firmly yes or no. And you know what would be really great is if you could come and spend even a couple days or a Friday with us or a Monday with us and a weekend up here and meet, you know, more people up here and you know, come to our Polka Fest and really get to know how people are on the weekend. And
I want to see if you can here.
that's really what I'm getting at. Yes, I know, that's my thought. It's just perhaps a third interview, but much more informal, a day with us instead.
So that should be part of our hiring process in the future is the Polka
Absolutely.
Fest test.
And to be transparent here, we were led to believe that Czech could polka, but come to find out he actually can't.
My wife is an excellent polka
So
dancer.
that got him by, yes, that's right.
I have the Polish blood. She has the dancing skills, so.
So it worked.
Well, if he were to come back to the Polka Fest, I want him back again for Dog Parade weekend and the fly-in.
I see, that's exactly right.
Probably.
The fly-in, for sure.
Maybe a bar night.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what it would hurt, especially if he's willing to come.
Just, again, just me, but I don't know that would change my position, but if this board's will to do that, I would endorse. I guess I have a question, would it be possible in that one-on-one meeting?
You have to do it in a public forum.
You can't, as a commissioner, you can't have
You gotta be careful there. I don't know the legal, I'm not an attorney, but you cannot interview candidates in a private manner. I don't know one-on-one how that would, I would suggest you get a legal opinion on that. I could see some potential issues with that.
Could staff meet with them one?
Oh, yeah.
That's no problem.
Well, that's, we actually offer that.
Right.
We offer that Monday.
could we investigate the commissioner
No.
one-on-one option?
What's that?
Could we investigate the commissioner one-on-one option, please? If this is gonna happen, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna.
I would suggest the clerk or Mr. Lewis call Mr. Norford and get an opinion on that.
Agreed, I don't wanna do something else.
Call today.
And I would see the staff, I mean, we need to have more input from staff and obviously too, my preference would be. And if they're not willing to even meet with them, then.
Well, I can tell you just an example, you know, and there is no blue book on how to do this. Everyone's different. I think I mentioned this before, the old joke, if you know one county administrator, you know one county administrator, because every county has unique features and different options and so forth. I can tell you when I was a finalist in Charlevoix, they were down to 2 candidates. They invited me and another candidate. We spent a day just going through the buildings, talking to staff, meeting people in the community before the board made a decision to vote. So that process is not uncommon. I'm not sure if it's used in county government. Well, I can tell you when the city hired their new city manager, they did that. Liz Vogel, who's the Missaukee County Administrator, came in and spent, the finalists spent a day with the city, with the staff. And anyone could stop by and see them if they wished.
Is another path forward an interim? On top of that, another interim? No. You know what I mean? No.
The path is whatever the 7 of you agree on.
I wouldn't know.
But I'm not sure how that-
Switching out of a good interim we like to another.
I don't know either, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of all of our possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I want to take issue with something Commissioner O'Rourke said. You mentioned, Jim, that he was doing it out of a sense of, Richard was doing it out of a sense of commitment. He told Chet and I yesterday he's out of the ball.
well, I can tell you, this is what Richard told me publicly and privately, I think with Ty. As long as he sees that the commissioners are making progress to the end goal of hiring someone, he's willing to stay on. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But I think when he interviewed here, he also mentioned that he needs to see progress to an end goal. And he reaffirmed that yesterday, that if there's a plan to get someone on board, no matter when it is, reasonably, he's willing to stay on through that process. Is that the perception that you received?
Would we be open to putting this on hold until after the summer? Into the fall of the year, we get our budget done for the budget process. We get Chet's wedding done, and we all take our vacations that we take in
It's next
July
week.
and August, and come back and bring the finalists back and anybody else that we might want to bring back. I mean, all I think we need to know is we don't have to rush.
You know, if we bring. It wouldn't be fair to bring Kip Belcher back, okay? Because he doesn't have the qualifications, so no, that wouldn't be fair.
Speak louder.
You're right. I don't think it would be fair to bring Kip Belcher back because he just doesn't, he'd be a great administrator. We needed CFO administrator. If we bring Mr. Belsky back, we just bring one person, but we're not ready to make a decision, that's not fair to him either. If we put this, I'd be okay with, if we can't start this process in September because we won't be done by December.
You could be.
That's 3 months.
The entire search in Missaukee took 6 weeks. They were on a fast track. So once again, there's no set.
How long do you stick here, put the query out?
What's that?
You put the query for.
Normally about 5 weeks. Missaukee did it in 3 weeks. So I mean, it varies. Now, out of fairness, they also had a strong internal candidate that actually got the job and was the clerk. Now, that's interesting because their title is administrator/CFO, but they have a finance staff. The prior administrator was now the city manager. She had a financial background, but not a strong background. Their perception is they wanted someone to oversee it and put their final stamp on it, not to do the day-to-day operations. In Kalkaska, they went with administrator/CFO, but they didn't have a finance staff. It was all outsourced and they haven't had an administrator in 10 years. So there, they needed someone to do the day-to-day work. So even from county to county, they're next to each other, same title, completely different duties and responsibilities and different expectations. In Missaukee, expectation was the administrator CFO would just review the budget and sign off on it. In Kalkaska, the expectation was that person, him or herself, would actually put the whole budget together themselves and bring the services back internally versus exporting it where it was done. So counties right next to each other, same title, completely different expectations. So it does vary from county to county on what your expectations are.
So how about if we put this off till August? And send out a query again.
with the goal of being done by December.
Well, the question is, are you gonna post it as an administrator or as administrative CFO?
I think we need the CFO part because, and we hired Sean to oversee going to a different system. We have to remember that that's what our goal was.
But just a minor clarification.
Advice from the board, we have Michelle here, we have Jen here, we have the treasurer here, and we have the human resources person here. I'd like to give them the opportunity, if you wouldn't mind, to make a comment on this. I think that'd be helpful. John, you have any thoughts? Are you comfortable with that? Is everybody comfortable with it?
Sure.
They do have an election to run this year.
To alphabetically or?
Yeah, alphabetically, I go last. I said alphabetically, I go last.
Depends on which way we decide to do
go with
that.
history and then you guys go.
That's great.
Michelle, do you have any input that you'd like to give us?
I will respond to the last comment first. Can I do it from right here?
I'm fine with that, yes, sir.
The prior finance director that was just referenced, I think by Commissioner Algier, I will remind you that was hired on a solo interview with perhaps not a full picture clearly stated with a different objective by the person that hired him. So that person, our experience of working with him, wonderful individual, but was hired under a different expectation than what everyone else here was aware of. Interim Administrator Lewis is doing a very nice job. I think that you heard some, we all know that we're where we are here today on a very poorly thought out plan. And it's being driven by a poorly thought out plan that was driven by 4 commissioners on a 4-3 vote that then got a 5th commissioner to join in. This is kind of a self-made problem. But I think right now with your current administrator, without giving all of my thoughts just on the situation, interim administrator Lewis, from my perspective, is doing very well trying to correct a ship that maybe was a tad out of control. And he needs to stay here long enough to let some of the cement dry to hold what he is trying to correct, because if he exits prematurely, because you cannot be in a rush to make this decision, because I look at the 7 of you and 3 of you are gone for sure. I mean,
And possibly all 8.
correct. Everyone here's got
7.
opposition.
You're doing time math now.
Brooks
Yeah.
nothing. So without judging the merits of what you're doing overall are right or wrong, he needs to be able to be here long enough to let some of the cement dry for what he's trying to put back to the way county government is supposed to run. And if he is pulled out too soon, I see us going backwards and having even more bedlam. He's got to be given the freedom to start hiring and firing. We cannot continue to keep waiting. We can't do this till we get this one. We can't do this till we get this one. This is not helping us get where we're trying to go, or where the board motion was trying to get us to go. And unless this board is going to step up and acknowledge that this was done on a whim for political purposes and nothing else, I think you need to keep him in place. I like the candidates. I had no issue with them. I can work with either one, but do not force this decision. Keep Richard in place longer to let the cement dry, or at least move forward, and let him get you. Let's get everything solid, then bring the person in, because I think we're trying to do this in reverse. You're trying to bring someone in, then let a brand new person that might not even be familiar with county government make decisions that they're really not. If you don't understand county government, this environment is not for everyone. I remember when I first started here, not to get off a topic, but I just thought, oh my word, this is how this works coming from private sector. I thought, wow, 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 wow. There are subtle differences in here and it's not for everyone and it's okay. Anyway, I'll get way too far off tangent. That's all I've got for you right now.
Thank you. John, do you have anything to say?
Nothing of quality, no.
Thanks, John.
Really?
Quality comments only. yes.
Quality comments only.
Thank you.
That's a high bar.
It is a high bar. After Monday, my opinion was asked. My opinion as such. Either which way you go, I do feel that the finance department currently is running on 2 cylinders of a 4-cylinder car. So if you want a finance department where you want 4 people, one of my opinions is when I left as finance director, there is no second in command. So you have an interim and 2 account clerks. The interim is going on vacation, let's say to Costa Rica. There is no one unless that administrator steps up to process the procedures that keep the county running. Your account clerks will do a wonderful job. They always have. But the decision-making, the last minute of whatever's happening, there is no one in that in between. If not all, at least many or all departments have a second in command. So I do believe, in my opinion, even if you go with an administrator CFO, your main focus right now should be a finance director, an assistant finance director, and you have your 1 account clerk. If you go with a second account clerk, I believe that's also well. What happens is, in our experience working together, if there's a finance director and 2 account clerks, if I was pulled into a meeting, then the 2 account clerks were there to do their job, but I'm pulled away from work that I am doing. So you are looking at that situation. If you have that finance director more of a managerial and more of a project orientated department head, which majority is, and management, they will not be doing the day-to-day. They will be doing your budget. They will be doing your budget amendments. They will be speaking with the treasurer. They will be doing your brownfield and your land bank and everything else for you. But they won't have to have their hands on a payroll other than to sign off that everything looked good. That's where your assistant comes in. Your assistant finance director picks up that, I don't want to say slack, but that day-to-day stuff that makes sure everything is running so that there are no surprises for that finance director. So today's decision, if you decide to push this off, my advice to you is that you would have Mr. Lewis start to create your finance department. Number 1, you either interview or go out for a finance director. Number 2, you look for an assistant. While the finance director, if it is to be Kathy, then is training the assistant, and you still have an account clerk that has all the basics, you're working on that group to create and to keep going, to sustain. What we've lost here is the sustainability in my eyes. So it's constant change. It's constant, everything's up in the air. We've tossed the balls, who's going to catch them, right? So in this case, we want to make sure that we are looking to create a department that on their own, if an administrator comes and goes, as my favorite administrator has always told people, he was the longest standing here with 10. Typically, he tells you 2 to 3 years.
For about 3 to 4.
So I understand where you're putting your investment in your administrator CFO. I get that. That was Michelle's role and John's role together. They were the CFOs and they worked with Chet. So by pulling this finance out of both, in essence, the treasurer and the clerk, you have to have somebody that's going to oversee, and your finance director and your administrator take those spots. Okay. So in my mind, if you're going to create this and you're going to pause on this decision, then I would start Monday morning with Richard, or Tuesday when he comes, starting that role of, let's get this finance department set up and get them going so that anyone can come in as an administrator and work with the people that you've hired and have learned the process. I agree that you're going to have to do a system upgrade. We've talked about that for years. When the finance was within the clerk's office, There wasn't the staffing nor the time to take on a project like BSNA. It wasn't there. You would have had to hire 2 more people. I believe even now you may have to hire somebody when you go to switch to be just in charge of that, because it is such a cumbersome task to take on, a large task. So if you're looking at a finance department administrator, CFO, that finance director is going to be setting up that software, going to be looking at that chart of accounts to make sure it matches, be working with the treasurer and all of the departments for receiving purposes, general ledger access, accounts payable access. It will take a majority of their work. And that is not something I know that an administrator CFO has time for. They can certainly direct it. But I think that if you can get your department set up and sustainable, that, like I said, whoever you bring in, you would have that in your favor. Where now we feel like we're kind of shortchanged, in that regard.
Thank you.
Heather, do you,
There's our knowledge right there.
pardon?
I said, there's our CFO right there. It's all the
Heather, do
knowledge.
you? Well, we've talked about the candidates and we've talked about the options. I think we're down to item number 2 on our agenda. Next step, what do we do? Commissioner Rexbrook?
Listening to the comments from both Michelle and Jen, I mean, I think there's support for keeping Mr. Lewis here and to getting the finance department put together. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. My hesitation for the candidates wasn't to not have that happen. I still don't feel personally that either one is exact fit for what we're looking for right now. So I would endorse that path forward right now. And I guess discuss, I don't know if we have to decide that today, what our next path is for the search for the leader, the administrator / CFO or administrator, pure administrator. I mean, I kind of heard a little bit, I mean, and Jen, I guess a little bit of what you said is if you have that department up and running in the way it should be, the CFO part of the administrator is less of a, I mean, they would work in conjunction, but you had it before. I mean, you had an administrator here with a strong finance position, and so you had that, and you're nodding yes, so I assume that worked that way. And so I'm open to that possibility, but I agree 100% about Mr. Lewis will stay and let's get off our proverbial seats and get a finance department built and up and running. And then continue the conversation on what we do after
Just
that.
2 quick comments based on the comments. And first of all, you don't want to bring someone on a split vote. Commissioner Lauter remembers when that happened last time. The search prior to me, the board had difficulty settling on a candidate, finally voted 4-3 to give it to, I believe, their 3rd or 4th choice. And that person came in with a couple of strikes against them and lasted about a year. So, and you remember, it's a 2-way process. Administrators want to feel there's support for them coming in. I'd be leery of any administrator that would come in on a split 4-3 vote, unless there were really 2 strong candidates. Sometimes you have 2 really great people that all 7 you could agree on, you just have to pick one. That's a different situation. But if you're not united, to have someone come in on a 4-3 vote, history has shown that doesn't usually work well.
Yeah.
And it is an evolving process. Right now, I'm doing the search for Branch County. They've had an administrator / controller, which has duties beyond CFO, 17 years. But they decide just to go with an administrator because they feel their finance department is doing well. They feel the administrator, current one, is overburdened with too many duties. And so they have decided to go strictly with an administrator role, even though they had an administrator / controller for 17 years. So these jobs are constantly evolving in different circumstances, different times. But it works in one county, may not work in another county. You have 2 counties with the same titles with different responsibilities. But one thing I would caution you is don't vote just to book someone on a 4-3 vote or 5-2. That does not usually work out well.
Commissioner O'Rourke and then Commissioner Elder.
Looking back on trying to get a way out of this, I agree with Mr. Rexbrook, but I really think we missed the boat on Tracy Bird. She was a several-year experienced county administrator, both in Clare County and the county she's in now. She was also a CPA. She talked about working on the budgets and doing the budgets. I'm looking back right now to say, I think we missed her.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
I agree that we should let Richard continue his work. I'm grateful he's willing to do it. He's doing a wonderful job. So thank you for bringing him to chat.
I owe him 3 steak dinners, he told me. It keeps going up. He called me the first week he was here and said 1 steak dinner. He called me this week on Monday or Tuesday, said it's up to 3 steak dinners now. I did offer to take him to Mode's Bum Steer this week,
Oh, that didn't work out.
but for some reason he,
Thank you.
just joke, he tried to put some humor to it. I promised to take him out to Mode's this week, but I don't think so.
So, I would like to restart if we could finalize that late August.
It's
end
up.
August or whatever, start the process again. So we're done by the end of our terms. Regarding what Mr. Commissioner Rexroad said, I appreciate Jen's comment because what we need to know is the experience of the people here. What will it take to do the job? So I think we should move forward with getting the finance department fully staffed. The only caution is that one of the reasons we combined admin CFO, another reason was because if we were gonna get a competent CPA over in our finance department, we were gonna have to pay big bucks. And we consolidated them. So we could pay 1 high salary and not 2. So that's something we have to think about. That doesn't mean we can't get somebody very competent in finance department, but do we need a CPA there? If we have one in the administrator, so there's lots for us to consider here. We didn't want to do that before, so we provide the position. But let's go forward in hiring a complete staff for the finance department in the meantime.
Mr. Rush?
So again, we're assuming that Richard Lewis is interested in developing this finance department. When I spoke with him yesterday, he wants to go from 21 to 25 hours per week. Is that really an expectation that we could have him be our administrator and help develop a finance department on 25 hours a week? I understand you guys have had conversations with him, but I just want to make sure that this plan going forward.
Well, if we went forward, I would ask that you allow me to meet with Richard, develop, negotiate a contract for the balance of the time here, and have him come and talk to us about his expectations and our expectations and how it's going to work.
So
Part of that, if you have that dialogue, has to be a plan and an exit date for him. Because he says, he's been very open from the very beginning. Based on what he told me, and I want to speak on his behalf, he's willing to stay on as long as there's a plan in place. He doesn't want to come in here not knowing how long he's committing himself for.
okay, so based on what you said, I'm serious, I would make that motion. Would anyone support that?
Before you do that, I want to respond to, we had definite conversation yesterday about his intention to move forward with fairly concrete plans for finance. He did share that with us, right?
I got the impression that he is willing to go forward on up to 25 hours a week and proceed with developing a finance department.
So do you want
That's the impression, I don't want to speak on his behalf, that's the impression I got. I think that's accurate.
Okay, so I would move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners that we negotiate a contract.
May I suggest that you authorize the board chairman to enter into negotiations with Mr. Lewis to extend his current contract?
So moved.
It's not moved to recommend, you will move.
You move
Oh,
this
is this
as
a- okay.
special
Okay, so I will
support.
support.
You have that, Michelle?
Give me just 1 second.
And then you have to have a discussion on how you're gonna proceed with the candidates, because I have to let them know what their status is. And Mr. Lewis will want to know also.
Yes.
Yeah, he may want to be included on this.
So could we just let Mr. Belsky know that we are not yet ready to make a decision?
I'll call him up.
I assume he knows,
He's probably listening. Hello, Mr. Belsky.
and I hope we communicate with both Mr. Belchi and, Mr. Belcher, that, we are impressed, and we want them to remain
Okay,
in.
so just for
All
clarification, you have a motion on, should vote that, and then have a discussion what you're gonna do with the proceeding with the position.
Are you,
Michelle?
We have a motion by Al Geyer that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners authorizes the chairman of the board to negotiate a contract with interim administrator Lewis. Is that,
For what purpose?
We need
to extend his
The
contract?
word is to extend the contract,
To
the
extend
current
his
contract.
Current contract.
We don't need any more specific.
Because then Mr. Wessel will come back with a proposal that you would have to vote on.
Okay, all right, we'll come back and vote on it. Okay, okay,
And
then a
and
second.
I would hope
Well,
we could do that by
we-
Do
Tuesday.
the first one.
Oh, that's right, we gotta vote.
We haven't even voted on this, so
So we have a motion on the floor, any discussion on that motion?
you have, I support that, right?
I do support?
Okay,
Oh,
right.
no, I don't. I have overworked it, but it's Rex Road.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can give you a little.
Any discussion on the motion? Are we ready to vote? Could we have a roll call vote, Michelle?
Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes,
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
6-0.
Wow, that's rare.
Okay, and can we tell Mr. Belcher, thank you very much, and tell Mr. Belsky that we are going to recommence this
yeah, why don't-
process.
can I craft a motion for that? I would,
I
I would,
don't know.
I would move
Let's
that.
see how we
Let's do it
do.
together, okay? I would move that the board inform, that we inform Mr. Belsky that he's still at the top of the list, but we are going to re-interview candidates in 90 days. You pick a days that this comfortable with, we don't, I want him to know that we still consider him a top candidate, but we'll be opening the process up.
Excuse me, just
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
In 90 days, what is job gonna be? You have to decide whether it's gonna be administrator or CFO, because I've heard different discussions here.
I don't see
So,
how we can
if
do
you-
it.
If you're gonna post a job, you have to decide what you want
Well-
the duties to be.
I don't know if we're.
Do we have to decide that right now?
No, you don't. But if you say 90 days, that kind of gets the clocks ticking, because you have to
Right.
re-advertise and everything else, so.
Right, so we have to come to agreement on that within 45 days, or make it 120 hours, actually, the days were just an attempt, I don't know.
Yeah, I was-
What,
By the
What-
end of August, so we can get it done by December.
You don't have to make this decision.
Yeah, you don't have to decide.
yeah, okay,
Out of fairness to those two candidates, they should know where they stand.
Yes.
So I'm got the impression that at this point, there's not support to continue with dialogue with Mr. Belcher, correct?
Regrettably, no.
Right? At this point, at this point,
He doesn't fit.
there is potential interest with Mr. Belsky. But you need to, first of all, finalize the contract with Mr. Lewis. And then you, as a board, need to have a discussion on where you are and how you wish to proceed. And you don't, and the clerk is right, you don't have to decide that now.
thank you.
Is that,
Yes. I don't think I even-
Is that-
So I withdraw my half motion.
is that the consensus of the board? Would I overview?
So I will, because of the way we just voted, I will meet with Mr. Lewis and ask him to speak to his interest and expectations and a revised contract next Tuesday at the board meeting. We'll add that onto the agenda as a late addition. Is that suitable?
Good.
Now, for example, if in X number of days, 69 days, you decide to post a job just as an administrator, then the current candidates can reapply if they wish. Or if it's administrative CFO, they have it. Well, I guess we're going one step ahead. Finalize the deal with
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis first, then have a dialogue with Mr. Lewis, how much time he would need to finalize the finance department. And then may have a discussion at some point in the near future, how you wish to proceed. But I would agree with comments a couple of you made. You really don't want to burden the next board with doing this, the first duty they have in January or February of next year, because that's not fair to them.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the candidates. And you do have to think long-term. The odds are, if you look at the history from Leelanau County, his first administrator was what, mid-80s, Mr. Savage.
Yeah.
If you go in the sign of all them, just like most counties, they're short-term. In fact, I was here 11 years almost, was rare across. When I left from Clare up to the UP, I think I was number 2 or 3 in seniority. So there is constant turnover in these jobs. Grand Traverse, Wexford, Benzie went through 4 of them in my time here. So these are constant turnover jobs, just like school superintendents. So really want to put a structure in place that will work for Leelanau County than trying to find people to fit the structure.
You're willing to come back?
Excuse me? I think I misunderstood you.
So before we go to public comment, I want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to speak to the issue we just voted on. Start with Commissioner Lautner. Any final comments, Commissioner Lautner?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Rourke?
I'll be getting enough phone calls, no, I'll pass.
Commissioner O'Gara?
No.
Commissioner Richard?
No.
I'd just like to say I've taken this very seriously, and I appreciate this group taking a little pause, because that's exactly how I felt, and I felt really good about today's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Me too.
I'll echo, yeah, ditto.
Are we ready to move to public comment?
I still don't care.
Is there anybody that would like to make public comment this morning? We thank you for being here. Any commissioner comment?
Thanks, everybody. That's it.
I'd like to
Motion.
thank Chad for facilitating this and have a fabulous wedding.
Yeah.
Just for record, I'm not getting married. That's what,
No,
it's my daughter.
It's
But
like
this weekend, we're celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary. So
Congratulations.
my daughter's getting married, not me.
Yes, I'm sorry, I could have said that.
No, but a couple of said, you referenced to my wedding coming up, so I want to make sure, but you. Yes, Jane's still putting up.
We are adjourned.
Jane watches
Slip in some vowels on the side.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So we'll.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hi.